name is Elijah.
Hey everybody, my name is Titania.
We are
ENT
ENT
Redemption. So now that we have introduced ourselves and our company name, we're going to give you a little background of basically who we are and how we came up with our business name and basically what our business is going to consist of. And we're going to start off with E.
So in the early 2000s, you know, I was always passionate and ambitious about, you know, the truck driving, you know, 18-wheelers, dump trucks, cranes, whatever it was. So when I was about 15 years old, I had an old fella on a Kenworth, 18-speed Kenworth, and he let me drive about 30 minutes, showed me all the gears, and I was running through gears about 30 minutes. So since then, you know, since I actually got behind the wheel of it, you know, that's what I figured I was gonna be doing my whole life. And so, you know, I used to spend the summer down at my grandparents' house down in, you know, a small town in Florida. Excuse me, rocking through some rough terrain here. Spent my summer down in small town Zephyr Hills, Florida, with my grandparents. And so I ended up getting a job, my first 9-to-5 job at McDonald's down in Zephyr Hills. And so I got that job with the mindset of, okay, one day I'm gonna buy me a rig and I'm gonna get on the road. So started working it, and just the money wasn't really coming in like I expected it to be coming in. So, you know, I'm working 3 to 4 days out the week, barely getting $150 a week. You know, didn't have no responsibilities really like that. I'm still living at home with moms and dad, you know. But I just didn't feel that was enough to, you know, save up for a rig. And so I figured, all right, it's time to do something a little different. Got to get a little bigger. And so, staying in Zephyr Hills for the summer, riding around a bunch of houses and places like that, to and fro from home, well, from my grandparents, and to back and forth to grocery stores and all that. Going down little back country roads, I seen that there was a lot of people had a bunch of, you know, I call it junk, you know, trash, scrap metal, and everything in their yard. So I started thinking, I was like, okay, maybe these people need a little help clean this up. Maybe I can start a little side hustle, you know, just by doing things like that. And so one early morning at my grandparents' house, woke up. Grandparents had about an acre. About an acre and a half, with a big barn shed. Granddaddy was always a hard worker, man. Grandma and granddaddy was always just a hard worker, man. Just doing everything, you know. Granddaddy had hog pens. Once upon a time they had cows, should I say. And so he had a lot of things just back out in the field. So one morning I got up early. That was always our thing. My daddy and my granddaddy taught me, you want to get some things done, man, you got to get up earlier than the chickens and get it done. So that's how I was raised, that's how I was bred. So got up one early morning and just walked around my grandparents' property. Seen a bunch of busted down old lawnmowers, bicycles, stuff like it. So I was like, start doing a little thinking. Had my older brother in there at that time. He had a pickup truck. Had an old pickup truck. Granddad had about a 15-foot flatbed trailer. So I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and wake him up, let him know my idea. And he came outside, let him know what was going on, told him my idea. We like, hey, before we touching this stuff, we gotta ask Grandpa, cause ain't no telling if he gonna, you know what I'm saying, fix on any of this stuff or try to refurbish it or whatever he had. So I was like, all right, let's go in here and ask Grandpa. So we went and asked Grandpa. Told him what had going on. Just, hey, Grandpa was trying to get some, you know, trying to start a little side hustle, man. Just trying to do our own thing, trying to do my own thing. He said, all right. Talking about all this garbage you got out here, all this scrap metal and all this here. I'm like, yeah, Grandpa, that's it. Want to try to get rid of it. At the same time, we'll pick up, you know. They ain't have much trash laying around. It was mainly just old broken down equipment that just been sitting out for a while. But anyway, let them know if we see any trash, we'll get it up. So, with that being said, he said, okay, have at it. So what we did, we had at it. So, all right, long story short, the first load me and my older brother took, it gave us about $400 in our pocket. We split it straight down the middle, Gucci. So to carry on about it, that was our first load out of my granddaddy's yard. So it started being known that we was doing it. It had a lot of people in the area doing it at the time, but you know, they really wasn't. They really wasn't hitting like me and my brother was hitting it. We was going. We see something in the yard, if it's trash or scrap, we stopping. We knocking on doors. Hey, we get this cleaned up for you. You know, if it was a bunch of garbage, you know, we'll put a little price on it. But if it was mostly scrap, you know, we'll just grab it. And so that's what we started doing in the midst of just one summer with me working, I had eventually stopped at McDonald's. Probably about 2 weeks, week and a half into us going to get this, taking that first load down. I stopped it because I'm like, okay, I made $200. The full load was about roughly $400. So we split in half, so I made roughly $200 within a couple of hours. I was not even getting $200 spending 5 days at McDonald's. So I'm like, all right, we gonna run with it like this here. So we had got quite a few customers up. So within that span of summer, we did roughly about 30 loads, man. And you know, summer for being out of school and all that is about what I want to say. Then it was about 2 months or something. So we did it, man. We was hitting it. We get up in the daytime, and in the early morning we just go ahead and we get it knocked out, man. And so my brother ended up getting a job. He ended up getting a job down in north of Florida. So he had to end up, you know what I'm saying, going to work. On this specific morning, he had to get up and go to work. And we had a trailer load full, a load of junk to take down to the scrap yard to get paid out. He had to go to work. He had to take his pickup. You know, had to understand it. So, you know, it is what it is. So when he left off to work, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, man, I want to get this down to the scrap. You know what I'm saying? To get some money to keep on just putting to the side. You know, I had at my home, I had a piano I used to put I used to put money behind. Whenever I got the money, I used to put it behind, try to save it up, you know. And I'm like, man, I want to go get this money, man, because this one full load, and we probably had another job set up for the next coming day or whatever. So I'm like, man, he at work. He don't get out the way later on in the night, so I need to make something happen. So I said, to hell with it. I'm going here and ask my grandpa, my grandma, can I use one of their trucks to get this load down to the scrap yard? So we're in there and asked him. So he had an old 77 4-speed, 4-speed 77 with granny low. And he asked me could I drive it. I said, well, it shouldn't be too hard, ain't it? And he was like, all right, well, you take it. I was like, I took it. I took it to the scrap. I took the load down to the scrap yard. And then I came back. So when I came back, they was sitting out on the porch. My grandma and my grandpa was sitting out on the porch, and they asked me, they say, you like the old truck? I said, man, I love that old truck, man. Love it. He was like, well, you like it that much, of yours. I said, all right, man, I was happy in hell. I was happy in hell told me that, man. This old beat up 77 Ford F-150, 4-speed, granny geared, 4-speed on the floor, what I say. But yeah, he gave it to me, and then, you know, I didn't have no license at the time. I should back up and say that, but I ain't had no license at the time when I drove that truck down to the jump. I only had my permits. But times back then was a lot way smoother than it is now. So we ain't have no real problems about, you know, people trying to stop you and mess with you and all that. So, you know. But anyway, he gifted me the truck. I got it. And you know, while my brother was at work, I was still taking on, you know what I'm saying, other jobs that we had to do. I was still taking on other jobs that we had to do. But at the same time, we breaking it right off, because we, you know what I'm saying, that's just how the system was working, you know. And so eventually I had to go back to school. I was entering back into I believe it was the 10th grade. I believe still had my 77 that my granddaddy gave me. Entered back into the 10th grade. And at that time, early 10th grade year, is where I met my future wife and my partner, which is Titania, which is the T with ENT Redemption. And here she is. We finna go ahead and give you a rundown on her. And I know for God, man, everything's just gonna take off from here. So y'all stay tuned, man, because it's all about y'all. It's about being informative and educational. You know, a little bit of laughter in it. Just our everyday life. But y'all ride shotgun with it. Here it is.
Alright guys, so as for T, which stands for Titania, growing up, I enjoyed managing my play store, handling my cash register, and doing math equations. Unconsciously, I knew that that's basically what I wanted to do when I became an adult. I just didn't know whether I was going to be managing a store or not. I was actually a very independent child. I only depended on my parents to provide shelter, food, clothes, and shoes. Other than that, I earned my keep by maintaining myself, my education, and my chores. But as soon as I was able to get my first job, I only depended on them for shelter. During middle school, I discovered accounting. During high school, I discovered business. Okay. Elijah says early 10th grade year. We don't know exactly when, but I do know that it was an early 10th grade year. So I'm just going to say roughly 10th grade year. He pursued me and I took the bait. Fast forward to me enrolling myself into college. I majored in accounting, minored in business. My goal was to get my master's in business administration. Now going into, when my life actually drastically started shifting. During my first semester in college, my parents, which is my mom and my stepdad, they could not communicate with me sufficiently. They was not trying to understand the maturing adult that I was becoming, and they was not trying to give me any freedom. So in November of 2009, they decided to kick me out. I didn't want to move in with my dad because his place was overcrowded. Elijah did not want me to move in with my dad because he didn't like the environment. So he had faith that his parents was going to be understanding of my situation and accepting of me. His dad was welcoming and supportive. Unfortunately, his mom, she wasn't ready to lose the baby boy that she had to gain the man that he was becoming. And his older sister, she was envious of our relationship and the fact that her parents actually let me move in. So to add salt to injury, they began compulsively lying on us and antagonizing us. So that resulted in his many visits to the hospital, me misdirecting my focus to defend myself, and misdirecting my career focus to become a registered nurse to take care of him. I mean, his mom was in the medical field. They knew his medical condition. His older sister was going to school to work in the medical field. They knew what they was doing. And they also defamed our name to the rest of the family and recruited them, except his grandma and his granddaddy. They recruited everyone else to widen the negativity and the hatred. But what they meant for evil, God meant for good. I mean, we was just graduating from high school, just turning 18, just entering the most critical time of our life, which is transitioning from a dependent child to a young adult, or should I say independent adult. And a parent is supposed to unconditionally love, support, and guide their child in the way that God's word states and in what God states on that child's life. The parents are not supposed to put stuff on the child that they cannot handle without that unconditional love, support, and guidance. Or they are not supposed to let the child go through something so drastic without being there with them. So, needless to say, once I realized how toxic they were, I blocked them from having direct contact to me. I stopped going around, and I became content in the fact that they never gonna accept us because they're putting their feelings on us, on how they feel about themselves. So basically, they was misdirecting their reality onto us instead of facing their reality and prospering from it. And I was able to, after I got my associates in applied health and failed the freaking TEAS test, that's when I was able to regain my focus on what I exactly wanted to do in my career, what my heart desired. And so I then proceeded to do that and was told, you don't need no doggone degree just to have your own business. So that's when ENT Redemption was established.
All right, appreciate everyone for tuning in for the brief background of ENT Redemption Trucking.
Right, so basically we're going to be sharing our authentic journey to help others as well as to receive help from others, because you know God put us on earth to help each other, not hinder each other. So like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to receive notification of our upcoming videos.
So with that being said, that's all we got for you today. Y'all take care. God bless. We're gone.
Until next time.
We'll see you.